Good evening again. It's time to call this June 15th, 2020 meeting, regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the San Felipe CISD to order. This meeting will be conducted by video conference in accordance with the governor's authorization concerning suspension of certain open meeting law requirements for COVID-19 coronavirus disaster. Madam Secretary, would you call roll?
Mr. Contreras?
Not here.
Ms. Webb?
Not here.
Ms. Haynes? Here. Mr. Mesa?
Here.
Mr. Overfelt?
Present.
Mr. Smith? And myself.
Is here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Let the record show that we do have a quorum of board members and that this meeting has been called in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. We'll have opening ceremonies, first with a moment of silence for personal reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please stand? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Again, for the record, Mr. Alfredo Contreras is not here with us. Linda Webb is not here. And everyone else is here. We have, first item that we have is under 8, is 8A, reopening schools for 2020-2021 school year. We have Ida Gomez.
Good evening, Mr. Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. This evening, we're going to give an update and a presentation on the work and the preparation that is taking place in order to open up our schools, our campuses, our entire school district in August of 2020.
Before, Mr. President, if I may interrupt, before we begin, I'm going to ask Willard to make me the host so that I can share the screen and for Ms. Gomez to present. Okay. Just give us a second. Thank you, ma'am, for being patient.
Thank you, Dr. Rios. Members of the board and Dr. Rios, I did print a copy, a hard copy, and it is at your desk as we go along. There are several items that we just want to touch on today and provide an update throughout the presentation. We did get preliminary information on the parent survey. We do have phase 1. We did open up our campuses on June the 1st for certain personnel and then some departments throughout the district. We have some safety protocols that TASB is encouraging us to follow. We do have an update on the online technology with the 2 elementary and the secondary committees that have been helping us for last month. We have an instructional update, and Mr. Mesa had asked for us to look into community support, and we do have an update for that. We have action steps that the district is taking, a commissioner's update, and an update on transportation. First of all, the parent survey. There are 3 slides. The first one talks about the number of students that a parent or a family has in the school district. So when you look at this slide, we see that 14 of the respondees indicated they didn't have any children. 771 said they had 1. 740 families said they had 2. 531 families said they had 3. And that gave us a total of 2,056 families. But when we equate that, you think about 368 said they had, or I'm sorry, 531 said they had 3. So that's 1,500. And 740 have 2, so that's another 1,500. So while it does equate to 2,056 families who participated in the survey for this question, it does also show that it's 3,858 students. How many attend some elementary? And you'll see that we do have 661 that do not. Out of the 2,040, all the rest do attend elementary. So again, while the 2,040 families participated, 2,057 of them are elementary students. We had 3 questions where you had to ask, when you asked, they would have to respond, not likely, slightly likely, somewhat likely, moderately likely, or extremely likely for a total. The first question, we asked, how likely to our parents are you to have your children attend school in August? 534 respondents said that they were not likely to return, while 266 said they were slightly likely. Somewhat likely, moderate likely, and extremely likely, 587, 248, 378, for a total of 2,013 responses. It increases a little bit when you think about the question asking, so will you send your children, are you more likely to send your children if we reduce the ratio of class size to 1? You'll see that the not likely one goes down by almost 200. 358, and the extremely likely goes up 100 to 476. Again, slightly likely to come in is 326, somewhat is 494, and moderately likely is 349. We also asked if they would be participating in August in breakfast and lunch, again, so that we can be better prepared. 359 of the 1,988 respondents indicated that they would not likely participate. 259 said they would, and you'll see the rest of the screen, somewhat is 390, 333, and the extremely likely was 611. So you're looking at about 1,500 parents or counts there that would be participating in our breakfast and lunch program. The next part of the survey was not a mostly likely or less likely. It was a yes or no type survey. So we separated these questions for you. Does your child have access to high-speed internet? 128 of the respondents said no. 1,871, however, said they did, for a total of 1,999. Does your child have a device? This question was a little bit more elaborate. It talked about, do they have a device to actually participate in remote learning? 259 said no, while 1,740 said that they did. So it's high speed, they do have a device. We asked about transportation for buses. Will the child ride a bus? 1,470 respondents said they would not. 372 said yes, while we had 146 indicate that they're not sure yet. They have not made up their mind yet. And then the last question that followed in this category, will someone be available to supervise a child under 11 years old? 476 of the respondents said no, while 989 said yes. We did have 527 of the participants who do not have a child under 11. Again, this survey doesn't close until tonight at midnight, but they did send us a preliminary
Be available to supervise a child under 11 years old.
As indicated on the agenda, the next part that we'd like to update you on is our Phase 1 Summer Phase-In approach. The TA Commissioner on June the 1st had said that summer learning options were offered by school systems, and they could include in-person summer school programs, including staff and student participants, and virtual summer school programs, which may require some teachers to use school facilities to deliver the instruction. We do note that our hourly staff returned to work on June the 1st. Irene Cardwell received a grant. They are having a face-to-face summer school from June 22nd to July 20th. It's from 9 to 2. It is face-to-face. We have 16 3-year-olds who have committed and 240 4-year-olds who have committed to go into the program. Our athletics strengthening camps have begun. Our early college high school TSI summer bridge will start tomorrow through the 19th with testing from the 22nd until July 10th. And our Del Rio High School CTE TSI summer testing will also take place from June 22nd to June 26th. So you'll see that we are phasing in people coming back to school. Core safety is our top priority. We need to establish processes for daily screening, supply proper protective gear, require proper hygiene, implement strategies to ensure physical distancing, plan for effective training, limit building occupancy, repositioning furniture. It could include taping off areas. When possible, creating one-way hallways, installing plexiglass shields where needed, propping doors open to avoid touching the handles, posting signage, creating exposure response plans, creating protocols for temporary shutdowns to provide deep cleaning if someone is diagnosed with COVID while at work, implement daily medical screenings, mandate self-reporting or diagnosis of exposure, prepare visitors, and of course, we know that communication is the key to ensuring a safe and healthy work environment for our staff, our students, our parents, and our visitors. As mentioned earlier, we do have an online technology committee. They have met 5 different times on different occasions, including today. We do meet with elementary and secondary at different times. While there has been a lot of homework, teachers have actually pretended to have these online classrooms, and they have provided a lot of information as to what is it that we actually have available and what is it that we actually need. So to start with, you'll see that the key, very important features that teachers were looking for were the lesson builder, library content, collaboration features. They wanted it to be teacher friendly. They wanted it compatible to all the software programs the district currently has. They wanted to make sure that grades could be linked to Skywards. They were very concerned about plagiarism features and, of course, training. Did the platforms provide good training modules and then training support? At this time, it looks like the elementary has chosen the Google platform. We are still negotiating the cost, the trainings, the added features, and some added apps that the elementary teachers have asked for. And secondary, Canvas and Blackboard were very, very close, but as of today, it was a Canvas platform that was chosen. They are negotiating the cost, the training, and the Premier Zoom. That was very important to the teachers to just have a state-of-the-art Zoom capability to be able to continue with their lessons. We continue with our preparations for instruction. We are preparing 3 different venues: 100% face-to-face instruction, 100% remote learning through virtual instructional teaching, worst case scenario if that was to happen, and of course the hybrid model. All of this is in preparation for an unexpected school closure as well. The planning documents for kinder through 8 are currently being revised and updated. There is a timeline. Teachers will have these before the August 3rd return. The 2021 staff development submissions have all been received from the campuses. The planning protocol dashboard to include the teacher and parent portal capability. The parent portal is still something we want to encourage if we had to go to remote learning at any point in time. Participation in the beginning of the year STAR assessment. This is being created by TEA, and this will help assess a baseline for students where they are academically, since we did not get to test in the spring. We need to acquire some hotspots, purchase technology devices. We are working with Spectrum for internet connectivity. We continue to participate in weekly Zoom meetings with the TA Commissioner for updates every Tuesday and Thursday. And of course, we continue to work with the Region 15, for their mentoring and support. Here's just 2 samples of some of the guides that we have. They're very updated. There's a lot of links. There's just a lot of help for students if they had to, for teachers. If they had to work from home, they'd be able to have a very detailed plan of action. And we'll be able to see these kinder through 8. Mr. Mesa had mentioned that we should reach out to the community to find out which apartment complexes, which community centers had technology available for students. And though it's very difficult to see on the hard copy, you will see that we do have some apartments who actually have tutors. They actually have devices available. They do have the Wi-Fi available. So we are reaching out to more. This is very preliminary, but it was a wonderful idea because it helped us to reach out, find out, again, who can we support? If there's a tutor out there, we want to make sure that somehow we make those connections so that if students are living in those residencies, they get the support that we need. So again, thank you, Mr. Mesa, for that. So what action steps is the district taking? There is a handbook for guidance that is being developed. It's following the CDC and state guidelines. There's public health considerations included. The San Felipe Del Rio employee screening protocol, new student enrollment procedures, the fall semester procedures, operation protocols for arrival, departure, and transitions, school bus protocols, and breakfast and lunch. Hector Chapa will be providing the principals detailed campus maps to include all square footage, the firewalls, the panel shutoff valves, anything that's pertinent that our principals should have. Mr. Chapa is going to be working with them. Also, schools will be providing visual maps for our parents for dropping off and picking up students. And we'll see that in the next slide. So developing the focus procedures or protocols for the following. Principals are working every week. They meet on Friday with Dr. Rios and myself. It's a weekly meeting. We've gone from a meeting once a month to meeting every Friday. They're working on arrival procedures to include inclement weather, procedures for the nurses station, transition between classes, restrooms and water fountains, breakfast and lunch, students receiving services through special education, speech and dyslexia, common areas, our teachers' lounges, our student playground, our courtyards, our gyms and hallways, cafeterias and libraries, dismissal procedures, also inclement weather procedures, cleaning and disinfecting on a regular basis, and our visitors. So when we look at this hyperlink, sorry, Dr. Rios, I'm not sure why it didn't open, but it is a workbook that the principals have put together. At the bottom of the workbook, there are all of those areas that we talked about. there we go. And at the bottom, you'll see the arrival, the assignment. What are the different things? There's got to be hundreds of situations that the principals are thinking about, and they've situated them in a very orderly fashion. You'll see here for arrival, for the front office, for the side entrance, for designated staff, the West Garza entrance. This happens to be the San Felipe Memorial Plan of Action here. Are we screening students? Is it a floater? What times? What is the process? So all of this, the principals are working as an elementary team, as a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade team, and as a 9th through 12th grade team, so that we can have some consistencies and we don't miss anything. Again, at the bottom, if they think of something during communication, they can very easily just jot it down and then come back. On the second attachment, there's actually a map. North Heights submitted a very nice map, and we believe it's going to be very helpful to parents. The particular map actually shows with visuals. It'll have the drop-off stations where the cars go, where the buses go, where the daycares go. And then once the children get out of the car, the temperature stations. So if we look here at this visual, we'll see that right here we have by the library and North Main, the K2 pickup drop-off area. But all of those little symbols are actual, that's 4 thermometer stations right there. So we'll have 4 people assigned. As the children get off, they'll be getting their temperature right then and there. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th is at the back of the playground or at the back of the building. And again, you'll see that there's 3 thermometer stations there. They've also talked about, well, that's for the students. What about the staff screening? So anywhere you see a pink, those are the only entrances where teachers could actually go in. They will be screened at that time and very organized. So every single map that we're going to have will have these visuals. It'll be important for bus drivers, for parents, and for everybody who's going to be helping us with the screening process. So they've done an amazing job working together, just a lot of thought and effort to make it as simple and as clear for everybody involved. As I mentioned earlier, the commissioner continues to give us updates weekly. Some of the updates that he's been talking about, he's just given us more guidance. And on June the 9th, he told us just even some more things about requiring school systems to post summaries of practices that they plan to use to mitigate the COVID-19 spread, which is exactly what we're talking about here, is creating those workbooks. Very impressive that our district created that. It wasn't a model that we followed, or that we borrowed, I should say. Increase the number of students allowed in a class. So now they're talking about a 45 square per feet area per individual. Before it was 11 individuals in a classroom. It could have been 10 students and 1 teacher, 9 students and 2 teachers, but now he's actually moved it on to 45 square per individual. Allow participation in UIL activities. He added hand washing stations as options in addition to the hand sanitizer for classroom and entrances. Provided additional clarification around the wearing of masks and face coverings. We've had a lot of questions on that. And then just some more guidance that's included there about physical barriers to the desk. Now, the important thing is he did tell us last week that this week he would really be focusing on a lot more guidance for opening in August. We look forward to providing you with another update soon. One of the very nice things that he was talking about was he wants everybody to be ready for August, and he realizes that it's very difficult with budgets and just the lateness of everything and the stress of trying to get thermometers. So you'll see here that every district was allocated what they call personal protective equipment, PPE. They will be shipping it out to the school districts. For San Felipe Del Rio, we can expect 93,528 masks to be received, 42,160 gloves, and 76 gallons of hand sanitizer. that's just the start. He did mention that he wants everybody to focus on other things besides this, but just know that San Felipe Del Rio is prepared to provide all the additional PPE inventory to all district employees throughout the year. And finally, transportation. Mr. Rick Maldonado, the transportation director, is preparing bus routes that would allow for staggered pickup times. It's not anything that's concrete. We have to start having those conversations. So he's already starting that plan of action. Thermometers will be available for each bus with protocols to check the temperatures before entering the bus. Protocols are being developed for students who have a temperature over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And what is it that we would have to do? We would not allow them on the bus. And of course, training. We go back to, we know that training is key for all our bus drivers and all our substitutes. So that is an update of everything that's been going on behind the scenes. We're very aware that you continue to get short board communiques and continued updates, but this is in a nutshell some of the things that are taking place. Are there any questions, Dr. Rios?
Marcel?
Yes, I have a couple of questions, and then we'll ask questions of the board members. My first question has to do with what do we have in place in regard to deep cleaning in case someone does prove positive in the classroom?
Yeah, Mr. Mesa, we worked with Mr. Henge and Mr. Carcasi to make sure that we bought additional foggers that just sanitize everything. We also have inquired, there's at least 2 companies in town that are dedicated to sanitizing. And so we have them as an option to hire them as necessary. However, with the purchase of the sanitizing equipment, we feel confident that we can do as thorough cleaning as the other companies. Now, we would definitely rely on them if we were short on personnel for whatever reason, but we're confident that we can sanitize as well as any of the other companies.
Thank you. My other question has to do with tracking, if there's a family member or grandpa, grandma, for tracking individuals that do test positive that are related somewhat, to our students that are coming into class.
Yes, Mr. Mesa, I currently have our general counsel, your attorney, the board's attorney, just trying to provide guidance on what limitations we would have. We know that the local health authority can certainly do all that, but just for us to be safe and take all the steps that we can, we've asked for the attorney's guidance. We just haven't gotten to that point yet, but we will.
Questions from board members? Mr. Orfeld?
Thank you. On transportation, I know we're still figuring it out. I know Mission Consolidated Independent School District down in the Valley tweeted out what they were doing on the buses, and it might be something also that we can look at, is when you go to the doors on the bus, there's the handrail and there's the flat front face to one of the seats. They've installed the hand sanitizer pumps like you would normally see in a building. And they've hard mounted those, so when the kids get on, they have to do that, and then they've blocked off seats on the bus. That can be found on Mission's Twitter feed of how they're doing it. Something maybe for us to consider as well. I know Ms. Gomez also hit on the thing about we're still figuring out what happens if somebody, when they're taking their temperature is 100 or more, because that brings up an interesting point of, if a student has 101 fever at a bus stop, and so you can't get on the bus, and is security going to be called to come pick them up or something like that? Because can't load everyone else and just drive off and leave an elementary student or junior high student there. And I'm sure that's stuff that y'all are all looking at, but it's just stuff that came to mind.
Yes, sir.
And then as Mr. Mesa was saying, the contact tracing. There, and you said that legal counsel, our counsel is going and doing that. I'll be interested to hear that because of what's said in the stuff about safety is a top priority, mandatory self-reporting of diagnosis or exposure. You know, if somebody had come in contact with somebody, we, especially for our faculty and those who work with their kids, I would imagine there's going to be something between now and August that says, you know, if you don't self-report and we find out about it later and it causes other things, there could be, you know, repercussions for you. Because I think that's one of the big things. Some people, oh, I don't want to say anything because I'm going to be sent home for 2 weeks or stuff like that. And then it just gets, from there, it snowballs and gets out of hand. But I'm sure, like you said, legal counsel hopefully will provide something of what our rights are or what we can do with that. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then I guess there's the last thing, Marissa. I know when we talk about the students in the classroom, I'm trying to just find the page real quick. They talked about basically each student needs like 45 square feet. And many of us have worked in the education field and know what a standard sized classroom looks like. And then it said something about up to 22. Is the commissioner already looking at, here we go, desk space 6 feet apart and an overall cap of 22. So the commissioner seems to be leaning towards, we'll allow you to put 22 students in a room if you can fit them 6 feet apart, or that's kind of misleading or confusing.
No, sir. He started, if I may, Mr. Overfield, the commissioner started by indicating no more than 11 human beings in the classroom. That would be 1 teacher and 10 students. And then in preparation for summer school, the commissioner indicated that we could have as many human beings as fit in a classroom, so as long as they were each allocated 45 square feet. And that in no case, you would have more than 20 in a classroom. He also indicated that they were leaning towards using those same summer school standards towards the August opening date. However, he indicated to us that this coming Tuesday, tomorrow, he would provide additional guidance. And now, between him and the governor, I'm sure that either this week or next week, they'll finalize all the guidance. And then we can start deciding exactly what we're going to do in terms of master scheduling. You know that we usually run our master schedules very loosely so we can get students scheduled, but in this case, there wouldn't be any need to do that. We just have to really wait and see what the guidelines are. Same thing for our buses. We're pretty certain that he's going to address all of that. So right now we are working with plans A, B, and C, so that when he is ready, we don't have to start planning at that point. So right now, unfortunately, every director is having to work, 3 times as much, so that we can have a plan, or at least a basis for a plan ready to go as soon as they decide.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mesa.
Good questions. Anyone else? I had one that I keep thinking of this, when I see the number of students that might not be coming back. We have faculty that their immune system is compromised already as a result of, some illness, whether it be cancer or chemotherapy, that they might be going through some treatment that their immune system is compromised. Do we have any idea, how many people we might have in that category that are faculty or staff?
Mr. Mesa, to date, we are working with 2 individuals. Because of all the methods of taking leave and relief through COVID, we ended up deciding to get the attorney involved to help us interpret it and make sure that we erred on the side of the employee. So right now, we've only worked with 2 employees that have asked for some type of leave. And I think that in both cases, Ms. Garcia has been able to resolve that.
Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Oldfield.
I'm sorry, I just thought of it right now. Because I know there's been a lot of talk around the United States and in Texas about it, and even in our community. On the commissioner updates, it talks about provides additional clarification around the wearing of masks and face coverings. Can we elaborate more on that, or are we waiting for more guidance on whether or not TEA is going to mandate that schools tell their students you have to wear masks when you're in the building, or is that a local decision that ultimately we'll have to make at some point in the coming weeks?
In all cases, Mr. Overfeld, we would use at a minimum, use the recommendations of the state. So for example, if we look at the guidelines that they put out for students participating in fitness and conditioning camps, they said that as long as you're 6 feet apart, you don't have to wear the mask. Using that same logic, in the classroom, we would say as long as you're at least 6 feet apart, you don't have to wear the mask. But in transitions from one place to the other, then you would wear a mask. And we've looked at prices to make sure that we have enough masks available to hand out to students. Now, I'm not saying that's what we're going to do, but that's how we've been following the commissioner's recommendations. So we're really eager to see what they share with us in the next day or no later than next week, so that we can start to finalize a plan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oldfield. Dr. Lewis, I had asked also that we have information on pre-K and K, what has been done so far. We hear about the elementary students, you know, that either virtual lessons or paperwork sent home, but I have not heard from kinder or pre-K.
Yes, Mr. President, 2 updates on that. One, the commissioner said that it was not very likely that we could service pre-kinder or kinder in a virtual environment. He saw a lot of challenges with that. So then we would have to find ways of servicing them on campus. Now, again, that was preliminary, but he said that's how he was leaning. So we're doing the same. We're planning on having instruction for them on campus. To that effect, we started with pre-K summer school already. However, we do not know what the final word will be until tomorrow at the earliest, is when he indicated to us. But I heard earlier that the governor had said that he wouldn't release his guidelines until next week. So I'm wondering what the commission is going to share with us tomorrow.
Okay. Is that it from board members? Any other questions? I think we're good on that, sir. Okay, we'll go on to the next report, which is District of Innovation Annual Report. Sandra Hernandez.
Good evening, Mr. Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. This evening, I'm going to provide to you a very short report on the District of Innovation's annual meeting. District of Innovation for San Felipe del Rio has or was initiated on March the 26th, 2018. This is a 5-year plan. Annually, we are required to review it as the District of Innovation Committee. The local innovation plan may be amended, or it may be rescinded, or it may be renewed by recommendation by a majority vote of the District of Innovation Committee, along with 2/3 majority of the board. Now, going back, the District of Innovation is responsible for, they're being tasked with taking a look at the statutes. And so what the district did was they approved 2 different statutes. The District of Innovation is in effect until March the 26th, 2023, unless it's, again, renewed or terminated by the Commissioner of Ed. If there is a change to the District of Innovation plan, we're required to notify the Commissioner of any actions that are taken. And as part of the annual review process, the membership of the District of Innovation Committee will also be renewed or modified by a majority vote of the board. During our meeting was held last week on June 11th. We reviewed the terms of the District of Innovation plan, and we covered the committee membership and the key components of the plan. And we reviewed the exemptions of the plan under the statute. I can have Dr. Rios just go back, just one, there you go. There are two sections of the statute that are focused in the plan, and that's the uniform start date, which is the first day of instruction, and the educator certification programs, for CTE programs. We also covered and reviewed the COVID-19 school closure during the updates to the second year of implementation. We talked about the academic impact because of COVID-19. And we looked at the 2020-2021 school year forecast. And what is being forecasted is that there is an anticipated resurgence of COVID-19. This is something that we've been, that has been shared with us by the Texas Education Agency to prepare for. We also spoke about the goals for the proposed 2020-2021 school calendar that will be shared with you later in a later presentation. But the 2 points that we had to review with regard to the school calendar is the additional school days additional day school year with HB3, the House Bill 3, and the proposed earlier start date, which would be a change to the uniform start date. As I mentioned earlier, the District of Innovation is tasked with reviewing the two exemptions that we sought out for being a District of Innovation. The first is the uniform start date. The statute tells us that the first day of instruction cannot begin until the fourth Monday in August. However, the District of Innovation felt that the rationale for changing the fourth Monday of August start date is that it restricts the local community or the district from designing a calendar that best meets the needs of students and families. And this requirement limits the amount of instructional time that's available before state testing and local testing. So this is the primary rationale that was brought forth by the District of Innovation Committee. So the strategy that was implemented as a result of the District of Innovation plan was to change the school start date to the third Monday in August, which would allow the district to provide a more balanced distribution of instructional time between semesters so that they would address the coursework, the completion of the fall semester before the winter break, and so that students would have an opportunity, particularly the seniors, who would be preparing for transition into post-secondary school, into an institution of higher education. They sometimes have school offerings or summer offerings, and so they felt that the District of Innovation Committee chose these are the reasons. What we wanted to do was to implement the strategy of changing the start date to the third Monday in August, and this is the statute that was in place right now. So the District of Innovation Committee, after being shared with the information that I shared with you earlier, we looked at two concerns, and one of the concern was certainly COVID-19. And so what resonated was we needed to look and to provide for how we would mitigate resurgence of COVID-19. And so the goal was to discuss extending winter break by a total of 15 days. But in order to accomplish this goal, the calendar would require an earlier start date, and that would be August the 10th, which is the start of the second week in August. So the District of Innovation is charged with discussing this and determining whether the second week in August, changing the school start date to an earlier date, would be able to address this need. So the discussion ensued. They worked and talked about this, and they also understood that their role was only to take a look at this particular statute. They weren't going to decide what calendar. Their only task was to determine whether or not we should change the statute to the second week in August, because it is a statute that's part of the District of Innovation plan. So the recommendation from the committee was that they agreed that we should implement the school start date to an earlier date on the second Monday in August. And this would allow the district to, if we looked at the strategy, is not only provide for the balanced distribution of instructional time between semesters and to complete the semester before the winter break, but to also provide for additional days to mitigate the resurgence of COVID-19 or any emergency-related school closures. The District of Innovation Committee took a vote, and they voted unanimously to approve this recommendation. This is the list of the committee members. If you recall, these are the same committee members that were assigned and appointed 2 years ago. And one person was absent from this meeting, and 2 persons are no longer able to fulfill the duties, but the vast majority of the committee members did attend through a virtual meeting, and they did provide their input, and they discussed this recommendation and made the recommendation for the change of the school start date. And at this time, I'll entertain any questions from the board.
Questions? There's so much information that has been presented on this report, and I know it's a lot of work for administration. I want to thank everybody that was involved in this report, and we have some more to come later on, but a lot of work has been done already in preparation for the start of the year. I guess no questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Next report that we have, the discussion of proposed updates to the San Felipe Dora CISD 2020-2021 school calendar by Deb Garcia.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. Tonight, we are going to go over some calendars. As you recall, last month, we reviewed guidance from TEA in regards to updating our calendar for possible COVID resurgence. And the calendars that we presented to you, then we went ahead and presented them to a parent forum and also a teacher forum. So we're going to go ahead and discuss that, as well as some goals, the primary and secondary goals, and then some recommendations as far as the calendars. The list that you see here is the parent committee that served in the forum. And then next, you'll see the teacher forum, and this is the same forum or committee that we use for the calendar committee. When we presented the calendars to the parents, they were concerned with some some things, and that was mainly because when we have the resurgence calendar as well as the intercessional, you're bringing back all students in the summer, so it prolongs the summer. And this is what some of the things that the parents said. They felt that the younger elementary students thrive on consistency and routines, and the longer breaks from school will disrupt that routine. They also felt that college orientation starts the first week in June, so it'll impact the seniors. Also, military families typically move during the summer month, and the longer June school attendance will disrupt their housing. They also talked about lack of prolonged summer employment for the older teens, as well as job skill programs for children with disabilities, such as the Workforce Commission. They discussed how extracurricular activities that occur in the traditional summer months would be affected, such as the 4-H camp, the Girls and Boys camp, and travel teams, as well as religious camps. They also talked about economic costs to families for childcare, as well as to the businesses that employ students or employ parents with school-aged children. And then finally, with longer breaks during the summer year and more families willing to travel, there's a greater opportunity for more individuals to come back maybe with COVID. Now the teachers, there was several teachers that have worked in other places where they have worked in intercessional calendars. And they talked about how these calendars allow for remediation before the student fails. So instead of waiting till June to bring these students up to par, after every grading period, you have time to bring those students during that intercession break and try to bring them up to par. They also talked about how athletes gain eligibility back for those 2 weeks of intercessions. They have concerns when you extend until you wait till the summer to have the summer school, then some kids don't come back. And then finally, they talked about how year-round calendars offer breaks after each grading period to be able to help those students that are falling behind. Now, when we brought the teachers back to discuss the calendar options, teachers are mostly concerned with the instructional setting rather than the calendar. They feel like, okay, if we know when we're gonna get started, we can go ahead and have our plan, but they're concerned with how that is going to look like. They were concerned about losing all their RTI days for their planning. And then also they're concerned with the block scheduling. And if the students go to an A day, B day, then how often are they going to meet with the students? The teachers, we brought 2 calendars to them that administration put together based on the forum from the parents and the teachers. And then when we talked about it, the teachers came up with a 3rd option. And the reason that they felt that this option needed to be presented is because on the calendars that we're going to present right now, we don't celebrate Monday after Easter. And they felt that there was going to be a high absenteeism rate. But then at the same time, they're concerned that if we switch that holiday for Martin Luther King, they also feel that that holiday should be celebrated as well. And then they had concerns with low attendance if on the calendar option that we're going to present right now, there's one option where we are in session Monday through Wednesday during Thanksgiving break, and that option might also cause low attendance. When we met with the teachers, there was 2 goals that are important. And there's a primary and secondary goal for proposing an update calendar for the 2021 school year and beyond. The primary goal is to provide 30 additional days of instruction. Of course, this is funded through House Bill 3 to address the loss of learning from pre-K through fifth grade students who are academically achieving below grade level. And of course, we would also address secondary that would be funded through the district, as we had mentioned before. Then the secondary goal is to provide for an extended winter break. This would give us 15 total school days to mitigate any resurgence of COVID-19. So here you see the option 1 calendar. And the point to address here is that there's 2 teacher-student holidays, which is September 7, Labor Day, and then November 11, which is Veterans Day. And then for Thanksgiving, there's 2 days that are considered holidays, which is Thursday and Friday. But then this calendar does build those 15 days that we talked about as a primary goal for the COVID resurgence. And then the Monday in April after Easter, that is not observed. That's your option 1. And option 2, in this calendar, there's 3 holidays. We have September 7th, Labor Day, November 11th, Veterans Day, and also January the 18th, which is your Martin Luther King holiday. And in this calendar, we do not have the 3 weeks off in the winter for to mitigate any resurgence of COVID. And we also do not celebrate the Easter Monday. The third option, our elementary teachers unanimously voted for, or prefer this options just because they worry about the high absenteeism for the Monday after the Easter Sunday. So in this one, it's only Labor Day, Veterans Day, and then of course, April 5th, which is the Monday after Easter. But this calendar doesn't allow for Martin Luther King. Those are the 3 calendar options. And at this time, we'll answer any questions.
Yes, for board members. Amy? Amy has a question.
I got it. Thank you, Mr. Mesa. Did you see option 1 was for COVID, had COVID in it as well? Like the,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
That's correct.
And option 2 didn't,
Correct.
and option 3 didn't.
Correct.
Okay. And why isn't MLK in all of these options?
Okay, so in option 1, Ms. Haynes,
Mhm.
you can't get to 180 instructional days in and have holidays in the second semester other than spring break and Easter. So the holidays are limited to only 2 holidays. Okay. Option 2 creates a situation where we don't have the week off after winter break. In other words, winter break is only 2 weeks, so that gives us 5 days to extend other holidays. So in option 2, we gave the entire week of Thanksgiving instead of just the 2 days, and we gave Martin Luther King Day, and but we did not give the Monday after Easter. Okay, so option 2 is really those were the option 1 and 2 are the only options that administration recommended. When the teacher committee got together, they were concerned about attendance, so they created an option to swap out the Monday after Easter with the Monday with the Martin Luther King Day. But you have to have 180 days of instruction because the goal is to be able to have the 30 days. So if we wanted to celebrate Martin Luther King and celebrate the Thanksgiving break, then option 2 would be the way to go. But it was just a matter of how we got 180 days in there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir.
That's a good point, because again, Martin Luther King has been observed as a holiday, and so we strive to do the best that we can with the calendar options. And I appreciate the teacher committee doing a lot of the work, and it's a difficult decision, but this is a discussion item only, right?
Well, it is coming back for action, Mr. Mesa, later on in the day. So you can have the discussion now, or you can have the discussion afterwards. If I may, Mr. Mesa, there's 2 points to discuss. Do we want to have the 3 weeks off during the winter holidays in case of a COVID resurgence? And if we don't, well, then we can talk about the holidays. But again, the primary and secondary goal was to have the extra week in case of resurgence.
Yes, I understand that, and I just, again, I know that there's other items that will come up later on in the agenda that will be action items. So at this time, any other questions? Mr. Smith has a question.
Yeah, not necessarily a question. I would just comment that if I was to go through the 3 options discussed, my personal objective would be to lean more towards option 2. Just to kind of lead into the later discussion.
Thank you, sir.
I would like to, myself, when we get into that, is that administration just makes the recommendation. Figure out between now and that time what you want to do, and then make that recommendation. Let's just go forward with the recommendation instead of getting a lot of discussion about that. That makes sense.
If the board wishes, you can move up the item to vote on it. Yes, sir.
I think Deanna's got a question.
Ms. Gonzalez, so before we weigh in on that question, let's hear all the discussion, and then if we want to move it up, then I'll bring it up again. Ms. Gonzalez had a question.
Right. The parents were given option 1 and 2, correct?
No, ma'am. When we met with the parents,
Right.
we were talking about the type of calendar they would like to see. So
Right.
we met with the parents to figure out what kind of calendar they wanted to see, to prepare us for both the District of Innovation Committee meeting and to develop actual calendar options.
So they were not given option 1 or 2.
No, ma'am, we didn't have that time.
Okay. Well, someone told me they had voted for option 2. Parent, am I correct? I was just wondering what if the majority of them want.
No, ma'am,
You did not
they
vote.
did. No, the parent committee did not see the calendar options. That's I don't know how that was misinformed, but they were not developed at that time.
But that worked on Miss Garcia. I was getting mixed up. The parents did have.
Yeah, we shared the same information with them that we did at the last board meeting, which was the in case we would have COVID resurgence, and we had the different options that the TA shared with us. But we asked more for feedback, and what the parents didn't want to see was for everybody to go into the long summers because of all these reasons that come up. They understand like a subset of students, but not everybody.
No, that's what I was told, because she voted for option 2, but it's incorrect. Interesting.
Ms. Gonzalez, if you remember, the options that that we shared at the last board meeting were not the exact calendar options that we shared with the committees. They were types of calendars. They were the type of calendar where you have the intersessional calendar, the calendar that were its regular one, and then there were 3 options, but that was a separate discussion.
I just wanted to see who everybody voted for, but y'all didn't do that. Okay,
Not for these calendars that we developed afterwards, no ma'am.
my calendars, okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Orford?
Thank you, sir. Just personal opinion, whichever one we choose here in a bit, I say has to have the MLK holiday on it. I'm not gonna push for anything that doesn't have MLK holiday on it. And then going back to the last board meeting where we were talking about intersessional calendars and all of those days built in, we've really moved away from that there, because these, aside from option one, for the most part, when you look at 2 and 3, they pretty much mirror last year's calendar, or what was coming, in the sense of the days that we were going to take off anyway, spring break, a week at Thanksgiving there. I know that there was some concern about absence rates in Thanksgiving, only having Thursday and Friday off. Most colleges only give Wednesday through Friday off, or just Thursday and Friday off. So that's a norm at higher education. I know that's what A&M does, or has done, just gives Thursday, Friday off. Junior college will only do Wednesday through Friday. The Monday after Easter, with what we're expecting next year, in the sense of high absentee rates, or dealing with COVID, I really don't think, again, personally, I don't think there needs that much attention paid to the Monday after Easter, and worried about just that one day being high absentee rate, considering what we are facing in the coming year. The 5 days at Christmas, or extra 5 days, I think we're going to see it in waves next year. I think we'll see something in the fall, and then we're going to see it again in the spring time. So whether it's 5 extra days in Christmas time, or having a full week at Thanksgiving, I think we're going to see waves of it, as we're seeing right now. We're seeing the second kind of reemergence in the state. At this point, we will see emergence X amount of days after schools open across the state of Texas, where I think we would be foolhardy to think that that's not going to happen across the state. No matter how well prepared we are, there will be a resurgence. So again, for me, it's got to have MLK built into it, and I'm not really that concerned about the Monday after Easter. There, I know that's more of a regional thing when you look at that being taken off by school districts. It tends to be a more regional thing than necessarily a statewide thing when you look at where we are situated in the state, because of Holy Week and whatnot. So those are my thoughts on it right now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Smith, that item is going to be the first one under administration, the voting on the calendar. So do you want to wait until then, or you want to bring it up?
I'm okay either way. I'm trying to avoid more discussion. So if it was just, here's my preference is option 2, sounds like that may be, but I only want to hear one recommendation for approval, not a bunch of discussion, I guess.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I may, the board first has to approve the resolution by the District of Innovation, and then after that, then we'll make the calendar recommendations. So there would have to be 2 items that are moved up, but I think it's clear where we're at. If I may, the primary goal was to provide the 30 days in the summer, and any of the 3 options do that, because we cover 180 days. The second goal was obviously for the COVID resurgence. But as we talked last month, if we are fully loaded with technology and can provide home-based instruction should we have to close down, then it really doesn't matter when that extra week is off or those extra days, because we'll be prepared by having enough technology and a platform, and I think we're going to get there. So again, it's a secondary goal, so we're okay with it. Administration will be prepared to recommend option 2 when the vote does come out. So we're fine. Thank you, Mr. Mesa.
Anyone else with a question? I think we're done with that. Okay. Thank you, Aiden. Next item that we have is item 8D. Presentation on changing fiscal year date, start date to July 1st. Amy Childress.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. This evening, we would like to present a discussion to change the fiscal year start date. The objective of this discussion is to inform the board about the process and reasons for potentially changing the fiscal year start date. Just to give you a little background, in 2001, the legislative session provided ISDs the option of either a July 1st or September 1st fiscal year start. Board action is required in order to make the change, and it must be done at least 1 year in advance. A 1 year notice is needed to give to TEA in order to make the change. It does not result in any changes in the budget process or the tax rate process. The district currently has a September 1 fiscal start date. Some reasons for potential change to a July 1 are that it provides campuses and teachers with access to their budget allocations prior to school starting. It would provide a one-time increase in fund balance by foregoing certain costs incurred in July and August. Current projections show the district's fund balance would increase by an estimated $11 million. It would align the fiscal year with federal grants, and the school first rating is tied to the audit report, so no consideration of the fiscal year. The budget process would continue as it currently is. The adoption of the budget would occur prior to the start of the fiscal year. The tax rate adoption would still occur after the certified values are received, and we would still have the public hearing to adopt the budget and the tax rate. Now, the only change would be here with the public hearing. The budget would be adopted first, with the tax rate being adopted about 30 to 60 days after the budget would be adopted. If the board were to initiate the process of the change, it would begin with the 2020-2021 budget. We would continue with our budget process, and we would prepare a full 12-month budget and adopt a full 12-month budget. However, we would only have a 10-month fiscal year. It would end June 30th of 2021, but we would also still have 12 months data submission for both PEIMS and the end of year financial data. The action steps that would be necessary to initiate the fiscal change would be, board action would be requested this evening. We do have an agenda item under approval of the fiscal year change. That would start the process. The next thing that would be done was a notification of intent to change the fiscal year would be submitted to TEA along with the minutes from the meeting for approval. TEA would need to be notified by June 30th if this were to occur, since it is a 1-year advance notice to begin this in 2021, 2022 when it would take effect.
Any questions, Mr. Mesa?
Questions, board members? I think it would be for our benefit to do that. Absolutely. Thank you, Amy. And I want to make one correction. I told Mr. Smith it was under administration. It's the first item under human resources calendar. So next item that we have is consent agenda. Again, there's 3 meetings, minutes of 3 different meetings, and there's also other items. Again, one action will approve all items on the consent agenda. Is there anyone that would like to pull any of these items aside from voting on all of them? Any questions that arise?
Just one, make sure that I'm aware with this. We got, I think I am, but consent agenda goes from is 9 all the way through 9H, right? 9A through 9A.
9I.
9I, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. Just to confirm that, I'm good. I have no question.
Which one, Dr. Rios, which one was it?
No, Mr. Smith was just making sure that we were clear that the consent agenda includes all of the items listed under 9, from 9A all the way through 9I, which is a point of clarification.
Okay.
I did want to remind the board that in the board update, we did send a correction on the donations. So it was just a change in the donations.
Yes.
That was it.
And again, those donations will be posted on the website to acknowledge the businesses. Dr. Rios?
Yes, sir.
Anyone wishing to pull the item out? If none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Mr. Smith, is there a second to the motion? Mr. Orfeld, all those in favor? Mr. Smith? In favor? Myself in favor? Diana Gonzalez? In favor? Amy Haynes? In favor? Mr. Orfeld? In favor? The consent agenda is approved. We go on to administration. First item that we have is consideration to approve submission of 2020-2021 ESSA Consolidated Federal Grant, E-Grant application for federal funding with a grant total of $4,349,617. Ida Gomez.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mesa, members of the board. The Consolidated Federal E-Grant application for our federal funding is ready to be presented. The allocations we're getting for the 2021 school year are included on the board memo. So you'll see the Title I Part A for $3,352,916. The Title II migrant has decreased by 35% as compared to last year for a total of $162,906. Our Title II Part A, which is our training funds that we use to train our teachers, is $433,746. Our bilingual Title III is $161,369, and our Title IV, which is one of our grants, is $238,680 for a total of $4,349,617. We present this to you and for approval so that we can actually submit our application to receive our funding. It is a yearly process.
Questions from board members? No questions. Recommendation, please.
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration. Please approve the submittal of the consolidated federal e-grant application in the amount of $300,617 for the funding of federal programs to the appropriated headquarters authority for the 2020-2021 school year as presented.
You've heard the recommendation from the administration. Mr. Smith made the motion, seconded by Amy Haynes. All those in favor, Mr. Smith? In favor, myself in favor. Diana Gonzalez, in favor. Amy Haynes, in favor. Mr. Orca. Motion passes unanimously with 5 votes. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 10B, consideration to approve change of fiscal year start date from September 1st to July 1st, beginning the 2021 fiscal year, 2021-2022 fiscal year. Amy Jones.
Good evening once again, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. The fiscal year of a school district begins on July 1 or September 1 as determined by the Board of Trustees of the district. San Felipe Del Rio CISD currently operates with a fiscal year start date September 1st and an ending date of August 31st. Administration would like to request changing the district's fiscal year start date to July 1st with an ending date of June 30th. If approved, this change would begin with the 2021-2022 fiscal year.
Questions from board members? I think we've heard all the information. Recommendation, please.
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the submittal of the notification of intent to change the fiscal year date form to TEA.
With the recommendation, entertain a motion for approval. Mr. Smith. Is there a second to the motion? Diana Gonzalez. All those in favor, Mr. Smith? In favor, myself in favor. Diana Gonzalez in favor. Amy Haynes in favor. Mr. Orca in favor. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 10C, consideration to approve an amendment to the 2018-2023 District of Innovation Local Innovation Plan. Sandra Hernandez. This goes for a 2-year cycle.
Good evening once again, board members, Dr. Rios. As mentioned previously, the local innovation plan may be amended, rescinded, or renewed by recommendation and a majority vote of the District of Innovation Committee, along with 2/3 majority vote of the board. The District of Innovation Committee approved a recommendation to revise the language in the plan pertaining to the Innovation Plan Exemption 1, uniform start date, to include a change from the implementation of an earlier school start date, specifically on the 3rd Monday in August, to the implementation of an earlier school start date, specifically on the 2nd Monday in August. Are there any questions? And I could read the recommendation.
Mr. Smith? Is that a motion to approve?
No, this is
Okay.
sorry, before we vote.
Okay.
The committee that met and voted, what was the vote rate for and against?
So
It was a majority.
we had,
It was unanimous. Unanimously, they voted to have 1 week start early.
Authority.
Sandra, I had a question. Correct me if I'm wrong, but when you do have a District of Innovation, it stands for 5 years, right?
the local innovation plan is a 5-year plan.
And then you can do an amendment.
Every year, we're required to review it. And if in the course of the review, if there is an amendment, the amendment has to come forward by a recommendation for a vote, first to the committee, and then second by a vote from the board.
Okay. So this is what we have in place up until 2023.
23.
Okay. Any other question? Hearing none, the recommendation, please.
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the amendment to the 2018-2023 District of Innovation Local Innovation Plan as recommended by the District of Innovation Committee.
Thank you. You've heard the recommendation. I will entertain the motion for approval. Okay, Ms. Gonzalez, second. Mr. Orfeld, all those in favor? Mr. Smith, in favor. Myself in favor. Diana Gonzalez in favor. Amy Haynes in favor. Mr. Orfeld in favor. Motion is approved unanimously.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We go to curriculum instruction, item 11A on the agenda. Consideration to approve the submittal of the instructional materials inventory requirement waiver to Texas Education Agency, TA, item 1.
Thank you. President Mesa, Dr. Rios. On March 13th, Governor declared a state of disaster due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Due to COVID-19, there were 27 waivers the Commissioner of Education has approved for submission to TA. The one that we're presenting tonight is for a waiver for the submission of the instructional materials inventory requirement. At the end of every year, the assistant principals have to pick up every textbook, all sorts of resources, and put it in the book room. Troy Turner from our textbook has to come and inventory all of the material. Because of this waiver, we still collected the materials, but we did not inventory them at this time. We've been given an extension so that we're not coming close to one another, and it's just part of that social distancing. In order to submit the waiver, we did contact the district TDM committee and got approval from them. I have applied to Teal for the submission, and I would just need board approval to proceed.
Question from board members? Hearing none, recommendation, please.
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the submission of the application for the instructional materials inventory requirement waiver and school board agenda to the Texas Education Agency.
With the recommendation, is there a motion for approval? Mr. Smith, seconded by Amy Haynes. All those in favor? Mr. Smith, in favor. Myself in favor. Diana Gonzalez in favor. Amy Haynes in favor. Mr. Orfeld. Unanimously approved by 5 votes. Thank you very much. Go on to item 11B, consideration to approve a dual credit partnership agreement between Southwest Texas Junior College and San Felipe de Oro CISD for the 2020-2021 school year. Item 1.
President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. As every year, we come before the board for approval to sign this agreement with Southwest Texas Junior College. On Tuesday of last week, the principals and the counselors, along with myself, reviewed the document. Any concerns or questions were presented to Dr. Rios. We did Zoom with President Gonzalez from Southwest Texas Junior College and Dr. Underwood on Thursday. We did negotiate the MOU, and you can see the highlighted areas are in yellow. It did not make your board packet, but we did send it via the board communique last night. And again, you do have a hard copy in front of you. I can go through the changes, or I can answer any questions that you might have on the MOU.
Mr. Smith?
I just have one question, nothing really related to any adjustment, but we've been in this annually for how many years?
At early.
For early college high school, we are starting our 6th year. Now for dual credit with the high school, it predates all of us. It's years and years and years.
6 years, and that's pretty cool. So anyway, just congratulations. I think it's a great deal, great partnership.
And I just had, on the changes that were highlighted, anything that strikes as something major? I saw, for example, the graduation, whatever gown they have to purchase on their own.
That is correct. That was, yes, Mr. Mesa, that was one of the items that we did discuss. The first MOU did say that the student or the district would be responsible for all of it. However, after meeting with President Gonzalez and Dr. Underwood, we decided that we would share it. So Southwest Texas will waive the graduation fee and we will bear the cost of the student regalia.
Okay, thank you for answering that question.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? I don't think we need to have all the changes read. I think we saw that in the update.
Yes, sir.
Is everybody okay with that? Everybody's fine? Okay, recommendation please from the administration.
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the superintendent of schools to sign the dual credit partnership agreement with Southwest Texas Junior College as presented.
Addition, is there a motion for approval? Mr. Smith, seconded by Amy Haynes. All those in favor, please indicate by raising the right hand. Mr. Smith, myself, Diana Gonzalez, in favor, Amy Haynes in favor, and Mr. Orba in favor. Motion is approved unanimously with 5 votes. We go into the next item, which is very close to that same item. Consideration to approve the 2020-2021 Memorandum of Understanding between San Felipe Del Rio, CISD, and Southwest Texas Junior College for the purpose of continuing a partnership with Early College High School at events.
President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board, the second MOU is also with Southwest Texas Junior College. This one is for Early College High School so that we can continue the dual partnership. As Dr. Rios mentioned, this is our 6th year in this partnership. The changes, very similar to the ones for Del Rio High School and CTE, were highlighted in your packet.
I think we have those in the update as well. Any questions from board members? Hearing none, the recommendation, please.
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the Memorandum of Understanding between San Felipe Del Rio CISD and Southwest Texas Junior College for the continuation of the Early College High School dual credit program as presented.
With the recommendation, I will entertain a motion for approval. Mrs. Gonzalez, seconded by Mr. Smith. All those in favor? Mr. Smith, in favor. Myself, in favor. Diana Gonzalez, in favor. Amy Haynes, in favor. Mr. Orba, in favor. Motion's approved unanimously with 5 votes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We go on to business and finance, item 13 on your agenda. Discussion and possible action to enter in an order approving the sale pursuant to section 3405 of the Texas Property Code, Tax Code, of certain real property previously struck off to the tax entities and trust pursuant to section 3401C of the Texas Property Tax Code for delinquent ad valorem taxes and allow the public sale of the properties for proposed minimum bid. Amy Childers.
Good evening once again, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, the members of the board. And you do have an updated agenda item at your station. We did have to update the recommendation on this, but that's the only change that was made. The law firm of Lineberger, Gargan, Blair & Sampson, LLP represents San Felipe Del Rio CISD, Valverde County, and the City of Del Rio in the collection of delinquent ad valorem taxes and the foreclosure of delinquent tax liens within Valverde County. The law firm has compiled a list of real property previously struck off the tax entities in trust pursuant to section 34.01C of the Texas Property Tax Code for delinquent ad valorem taxes and allow the public sale of the properties for the proposed minimum bid described in Exhibit A. All entities, the district, Valverde County, and the City of Del Rio would need to agree on the same minimum bid percentage.
I don't know if everybody has read the information there, but it's kind of complicated. Dr. Are you going to explain what you summarized?
Yes, sir. There's a whole lot of properties that have been off the tax rolls because people lost them due to tax delinquency. Previously, they were sold at auction, but nobody would even provide the minimum bid because they weren't that attractive. The county approached the taxing entities and they said, to generate more revenue, let's sell the properties well below the minimum bid. We won't make money up front, but at least these properties come back into the tax rolls and start generating money in the form of taxes. I mentioned to them that I would have to get board approval to do that. And in doing so, we talked to Sonia Gonzalez from Linebarger, Gogan Blair Associates, and she affirmed what they had mentioned. Now, some properties are bigger and more valuable, and some are lower and obviously not very attractive except maybe to a neighbor. What the county is proposing is that some properties get sold at 50% of the minimum bid price, and other properties with a tremendously lower value get sold at 25% of the minimum bid value. So that, again, they get purchased and we can start collecting taxes on them again. We're not going to make the money back that was owed to us in taxes, but neither is the county or anyone else. The city, on top of that, for those properties that are inside of the city, are probably going to also have to forfeit liens that they had on them for cleaning them manually. So it's a collective effort just to make sure that the properties are purchased and placed back on the tax rolls.
Okay, so the way I understood it too was that they had accumulated so many penalties, and the taxes were so high that nobody would bid on these properties because it was way over the value that these properties had. So now the entities are kind of forgiving the penalties so that this property can be sold at a reasonable, viable price, I guess, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So everyone understands now. Okay. No questions. So Amy, can you read the recommendation?
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees discuss and take possible action to enter an order approving the sale pursuant to Section 34.05 of the Texas Property Tax Code of certain real property previously struck off to the tax entities in trust pursuant to Section 34.01C of the Texas Property Tax Code for delinquent ad valorem taxes. The Board of Trustees will also allow for the superintendent to negotiate with other taxing entities the public sale of the properties at the proposed 25% or 50% minimum bid described in Exhibit A.
Thank you very much. That's a long recommendation. I'll entertain a motion for approval. Okay, Ms. Gonzalez, seconded by Mr. Smith. All those in favor, Mr. Smith? In favor? Myself in favor. Diana Gonzalez in favor. Amy Haynes in favor. Mr. Overfeld in favor. Motion is approved unanimously with 5 votes. Thank you very much. Next item that we have is item Human Resources 14A. Consideration to approve updates to the 2020-2021 San Felipe del CISD school year calendar. Dave Garcia.
Yes, good evening again, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. As discussed in our earlier presentation, it is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve option 2 for the 2020-2021 school year calendar as presented.
I think we all have discussed this to a great extent. I will ask for a motion to approve this coming from Mr. Smith.
I'm sorry, I apologize, Mr. President, and it could be my fault. I wasn't paying attention. Do we clearly indicate option B as a choice?
Option 2.
Option okay. Option 2, option B. Same. Okay, I'm sorry. I was thumbing through the sound.
Sorry. Oh, okay, then motion to approve. Mr. Smith has made the motion. Is there a second? Is there a second to the motion? Mr. Orfeld? Okay, then we'll take a vote. Mr. Smith, in favor? Myself in favor, Diana Gonzalez. In favor, Amy Hens. In favor, Mr. Orfel. Motion is approved. Again, for option 2 of the school year calendar for 2020-2021 school year. Dr. Rios.
Mr. Mesa, there was a whole lot of meetings that took place. The District of Innovation had to meet, the parent forum, the teacher forum, and everybody just made time to make this happen within the last week. So just on behalf of all of us, a huge thank you to everybody who participated. A special thank you to Ms. Beneke, who led the parent forum, and to Attorney David Ortiz that assisted us with the teacher forum. So everything got done because a whole lot of people pitched in. So much appreciated.
Thank you very much, and I'm glad you pointed that out because of, again, it's interesting the comments. Everyone is very much, again, express what their concerns were, and it's hard to sometimes approve everything that they suggested. But yeah, the committees do a lot of work, and a lot of thanks again to everyone that was involved. We're on to item 14B. Consideration to approve employee job descriptions and evaluation forms for coordinator bilingual ESL compliance update, aid for parental liaison bilingual, clerk records assessment, LPAC, by Dave Garcia.
Yes, in your packet, there's a copy of the job descriptions that are being recommended to be updated. And the changes in these are to reflect the roles and responsibilities of the employees. And in blue is any new information, and in red is information that was deleted. I can address if you have any questions to any of these 3 job descriptions.
Anyone need clarification on? Hearing none? No, I think we're okay.
Okay.
Okay, recommendation, please.
It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve the job descriptions and evaluation forms as discussed.
With the recommendation from administration, there is a motion for approval. Mr. Smith, seconded by Amy Haynes. All those in favor, Mr. Smith? In favor, myself in favor, Diana Gonzalez in favor, Amy Haynes in favor, Mr. Orfel in favor. Motion is approved unanimously with 5 votes. The time is 7:43 p.m. We're now going to go into closed session permitted by sections 551.071, 551.072, 551.073, 551.074, 551.076, 551.082, 551.084, and 551.087 of the Government Code, Texas Open Meetings Act. If a final vote is required, it will be taken upon reconvening to open session. We're now in closed session. The time is 8:35 p.m. We're going to reconvene into open session. No action was taken in executive session. We're down to item 18A. Consideration to approve personnel report to include the following: new hires, district vacancies, retirements, resignations. Aide Garcia.
Yes, good evening again, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. It is the recommendation of administration to approve the following new employees: Regina Cardenas, CTE Family and Consumer Science teacher at Del Rio freshman; Catherine Billig, math teacher at Del Rio High School; and Tatiana Reyes, ELA teacher at Del Rio High School.
Recommendation, is there a motion for approval? Mr. Orfel, seconded by Mr. Smith. All those in favor? I'll begin with Diana Gonzalez. In favor, Amy Haynes. In favor, Mr. Smith. In favor, Mr. Orfel. In favor, myself. Motion's approved unanimously. Going to item consideration to item B. Consideration to approve the position of principal for Roberto Bobby Barrera Elementary STEM Magnet School at De Garcia.
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve Maria L. Hudgens, principal at Bobby Barrera Elementary, as discussed in closed session.
With the recommendation, is there a motion for approval? Diana Gonzalez made the motion, seconded by Amy Haynes. All those in favor? In favor, Diana Gonzalez. In favor, Amy Haynes. In favor, Mr. Smith. In favor, Mr. Oka. Motion's approved unanimously. Congratulations. Item 18C, consideration to approve the position of Chief Financial Officer, Ade Garcia.
Yes, sir. It is a recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve Amy Childress for the position of Chief Financial Officer as discussed in closed session.
You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion for approval? Amy Haynes, seconded by Diana Gonzalez. All those in favor? Diana Gonzalez in favor, Amy Haynes in favor, Mr. Smith in favor, Mr. Oka in favor. The 5 unanimous. We congratulate Amy Childress. There being no other items on the agenda, is there a motion for adjournment? Motion been made by Mr. Orfeld, seconded by Amy Haynes. All those in favor? Myself in favor, Diana Gonzalez, Amy Haynes, Mr. Smith, and Mr. Orfeld. We are adjourned.